I remember when I started learning how to ride a motorcycle years ago, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to have a sport bike eventually. I wanted a Kawasaki, a Ninja of some sort. And in particular, I wanted a very banzai machine, and I knew it would have to be somewhere along the lines of a Ninja ZX-6R, something like that. Fast forward to 7 years later, in fact, actually, I finally got the bike of my dreams. And the kind of bike that I settled on eventually was a 2005 ZX-6R. And the bike in question is this one over here. And the reason why I chose a 2005 ZX-6R instead of the other models like the 2013 or the 2007 was because this was one of the most iconic versions of the ZX-6R lines that you would never find beyond 2007 and ahead. And here's what I'm going to tell you about. So before I actually carry on with the rest of the video, I have to talk about the history of this bike. I've owned my 2005 ZX-6R for roughly 2 years plus by now. I bought it in April, the 1st of April 2017, and it's been with me 2 years. So I didn't really make any major changes to the bike itself other than a couple of cosmetics, decals, a couple of sliders here, a new windshield, cosmetic stuff. But in terms of performance related add-ons that I must talk about before I go further in depth is that there is an acrobatic slip-on which really does fuck all for performance in reality because it's not a full system. It also has a louder hella horn. If you call that performance, I think it's performance to me because it gets people out of my way. And of course the tires, which is kind of expected. There's no way you're going to find the original tires on this, and the tires that were chosen to be put on this bike is not the same as the one that would have come on the stock bike itself. So take that in mind when I'm talking about the bike further down the line. The original Kawasaki ZX-6R line had always been a 600cc, in line with the other major manufacturers back when 600 Super Sports were all the rage. But Kawasaki has always been known to make banzai machines, and in 2003 they walked into the room with a 636 motor. This 2005 ZX-6R would be the last refinement they would have before they went the straight and narrow on the 600s until 2013. Despite having extra displacement, it doesn't really vastly improve over the other 2005 600s in terms of top speed or acceleration, only just tiny bit. On a widening course, you could probably not tell the difference. What you do get out of the 636 engine, however, is a power band that is more even throughout the RPM range by Supersport standards. It's been so many years now, and there have been so many developments in the 600cc Supersport category. Kawasaki's new 2013 636 model has vastly improved over the 2005 model. While you're not going to be winning any races on this hunk of metal nowadays, I'm glad to say it still holds up quite well as a track bike with great acceleration and staying stable around corners due to its weight distribution. Alright, let's talk about ergonomics of the bike itself. Now, the bike is honestly outdated, as you can see, in terms of bringing it to the track and competing with newer models, especially people who are on the new R6s with the new redesign. It can't really compete against newer bikes, but as far as the real reason you're going to buy one of these older sport bikes, and in particular a 2005 Kawasaki ZX-6R, is the ergonomics. Now, the R6 throughout pretty much most of its line, and also the GSXR 600 throughout most of its line along the 2000s and 2010s, they tend to be a lot more aggressive very heavily lean forward and with your butt stuck up in the air in a very forward leaning position. However, the 2005 ZX-6R and in a smaller fashion, the 2007 to 2009 ones, they are a lot more relaxed. You can see your ergonomics, your body positioning a lot more level. Whereas on my 2005 ZX-6R, if you were to view it on a vertical plane, my hands on the handlebars will be roughly in line with where my knee sits. Okay, but if you were to ride a R6 or a GSX-R 600, especially the newer models, you'll realize that you will have your knees and your butt slightly above than where your hands will rest. So it tends to be a lot more uncomfortable on those bikes for day-to-day use. Sure, they are graded posture for a track bike, but in my opinion, if you are really buying a super sport bike in Singapore, performance and track aggressiveness is really not the most prime consideration unless it's your second bike. Most of us that buy a 600 or 1000 sport bike in Singapore are buying it for the great motor, the great engine, and to couple with that, we want to have something more comfortable. Okay, we just like the look of a sport bike, and the 2005 ZX-6R gives you all of that. A great plush seat, as you can see over here. It really hugs my bum very comfortably. There's a lot of space. The cushion on this is the original cushion. It's not been relined, and 13 years later it's still as plush as ever. I feel very comfortable on it. Now the bike itself does tend to be a lot wider, a lot fatter than most modern 600cc sport bikes, or in fact even a 2005-2006 model R6 and CBR 600RR. So the Kawasaki tends to go for fatter bikes, which has its own merit, if I would say so myself. So if you're a bigger guy, fatter guy, you know, a 2005 ZX-6R is a great bike for anyone of this body type in terms of ergonomics. A smaller guy, on the other hand, it might be a curse to them. So for the bigger guy, it's more of a blessing, whereas for a smaller guy, it's a curse. Another topic to talk about is the weight. Now, if you were to take literally any sport bike made from 2009 onwards, it could even be the newer ZX-6R, especially the 2013 ones. Those were beautiful. They all are a lot lighter machines to push around, to handle. So this is where I come and talk about the whole blessing and curse of the size and the shape of the bike itself. The bike is big, no doubt about it. It's heavy, and the blessing comes in the form of stability. Now, when you are going down a road on highway speed, the weight, especially a lot of the weight is focused at the front. It's a blessing in terms of the highway because you're more planted. You don't get blown around by the winds, especially when trucks are passing by you at 80 to 100 kilometers per hour. While you're doing 120, you're not being blown around by the wind. But at the same time, this extra weight along the front and, you know, in general along the entire body of the bike is sort of a curse because it makes slow speed handling a lot more difficult than you would expect out of a 600cc sport bike. You know, the 2005 ZX-6R is only a 636, but if you were to put it side by side with, let's say, a modern R1, you could not tell the difference unless you knew what engine it was running, because they feel almost the exact same weight, the exact same mass. I would even say that the 2015 R1 and all these new 2010s super bikes, they are lighter than a 2005 ZX-6R in comparison. Now, if there is one downside to owning and running this bike on a daily basis, is the fact that even by super sport standards, the fuel consumption on it is a tad bit abysmal. 13 kilometers per litre within the city with start and stop traffic, 15 to 16 at best with more highway thrown in. With a 17-litre tank, your fuel light starts coming on somewhere around the 190 kilometer mark into your trip. Sure, it's great for touring as a sport bike, but just be sure to factor in all the extra money and time you'll need for the constant gas stops. While this is my dream bike and I do adore it a lot, I have so many gripes about the way it was designed. The internal layout of the electronics is a mess, as if the designers were fucking high on coke when they were planning it. The battery is situated parallel to the direction of the bike's body, straddling underneath both the rider's seat and the fuel tank, with one terminal being hidden under the fuel tank with the seat removed. Disconnecting and changing batteries becomes such a tedious process, requiring the dismantling of nearly half the bike that could have been done without. Thankfully, this grievous error has been fixed with the 2007 model onwards. The keyhole also to the pillion seat is situated underneath and to the left of the tail section, which is a pain in the ass to get to. And while I certainly like the undertail exhaust and find it incredibly sexy, it also poses another issue with the placement and poor design of the ECU. The ECU, being originally placed slightly behind the rider's seat and being close to the exhaust pipes, tend to be prone to overheating and shutting down during long rides in hot weather. Without either heat shielding the tail, swapping the ECU position, or just buying a cooler Akrapovic slip-on like mine had, it becomes a major problem and a safety issue. Kawasaki did partially fix the problem in the 06 model by improving the ECU's heat resistance and shielding the stock pipe. The brakes are another problem in my opinion. It bites well, very well in fact. It bites so hard that it's really easy to lock up your wheels, and the 05 does not have ABS at all, or any real electronics for that matter. The heavy front end means even on sub 100 km/h speeds, a light tap on the front and rear brakes could have the front dig in while the rear floats. Despite all the negatives of Kawasaki electronics, they however do make a damn good engine. Nearly 80,000 kilometers on mine, and not even requiring a rebuild anywhere, and not even skipping a beat. Mandatory servicing is also relatively cheap and infrequent comparatively. An oil filter and oil change every year, or 12,000 kilometers at the longest, shorter if you ride in harsher conditions. The gearbox is also great for the average rider with a neutral fine assist, making shifting into neutral easier when the bike is stationary. Knowing that there is a newer, faster and lighter 2013 ZX-6R out there you could buy with the most updated features the 2005 does not have, like ABS and traction control and programmable modes, why in the hell would you still buy one of these? The answer is comfort. If you're not hell-bent on carving corners in the fastest times possible, you can get one of these to handle long distance travels and commutes much better than most supersports could even offer. The stock seat is wider and plusher, the clutch and brake pulls are lighter, your seating posture is a lot more upright, unlike the butt in the air posture of the newer ZX-6R and the offerings from Yamaha or Honda. Basically, in this day and age, the 05 ZX-6R is less of a super sport and more of a sport tourer. Or you could be living the whole banzai image the ZX-6R portrays by buying it as a stunt bike. Bulletproof engine that can withstand punishment, intuitive torque and power band, and a great ABS-less braking. So I hope that answers all your questions about how the 2005 ZX-6R can still stay relevant in the modern world and the modern era of advanced sport bikes, especially in the non-competitive scene, in the touring or even in the stunt environment. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay cool, bye bye.